Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Putty and welcome back for another edition of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. We are here for the greatest tag team tournament in the history of our sport. We are here for the Sam Keith Classic, the 7th annual edition of the Sam Keith Classic. Tonight, 4 teams will compete in a round-robin tournament to determine who is the greatest tag team on the independent scene today. Remember, the rules are that each team will play each other once. A victory earns you 2 points, a draw earns you 1 point, a loss earns you 0 points. There is a 20-minute time limit. If you reach it, you each get 1 point. They are organized into a table, and whoever's at the top of that table at the end of the show will be the winner. And if 2 teams end up joint on points, it will be determined via their head-to-head record, meaning that whoever beat who in the actual group stages. And if they drew, we will have a finals match. But that's very rarely needed. We have for you tonight 3 confirmed teams: Clark Alexander and Island Boy Apollo, the Dynamite Express, Sid Collier and Cameron Jones, and the Aces of Mayhem, Ace Youngblood and Max Mayhem. The final team was indeed confirmed, as you may expect, on the Mid-Atlantic website this month. It is, of course, the 5-time Coastal Zone Tag Team Champions, the current Pittsburgh Steel, or maybe it's Grim SoCal. I have forgotten. One of those two. Probably Grim SoCal. Tag Team Champions. It is, of course, rich and famous Jackpot, something Jackson, and Hollywood Jake Idol. Fuck. High Roller, Jackpot, Jason Jackpot. Never mind, forget it. Look, Jackpot and Idol. Yeah, rich and famous. Okay, it's rich and famous. Which leaves our bracket looking like this. Now, I should warn you tonight that I have just edited the pictures from last year. So if the sizes look a bit off during this episode, that is why. But I've checked it beforehand and they are all legible. So it should be fine. Aside from that, it is the same format as last year. It is all matches tonight, baby. Just with 2 short break segments. But let's get right into it. We are in Baltimore, Maryland, like we have been all year. And it is a big, big show. So let's get started. As we open up with the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions taking on the Coastal Zone Tag Team Champions. In a decent match, the Dynamite Express defeat Rich and Famous when Cameron Jones defeated Jackpot Jordan by pinfall with a chop and change. So a really good, hot, exciting, fast-paced match to open us up as the Coastal Zone Tag Team Champions start arrogant, they start cocky, they control the match. They control Sid Collier in the corner. They make quick tags, big, fast-paced corner drop kicks, corner boots, just wearing Sid Collier down. And in traditional tag team fashion, Sid Collier fires up, and finally he breaks free, tags in Cameron Jones, who goes on a tear. Big, elbow to Jackpot Jordan, big boot to Jake Idol, and then finally the Dynamite Express set Rich and Famous up for their trademark chop and change, and they start the tournament off with a win. Points on the board. This big tournament for the Dynamite Express. They, of course, have confirmed that after their Mid-Atlantic tag team reign is over, they will be disbanding, so they want to win this tournament before they disband. They want to make this reign the greatest in history. I mean, we are going into the 4th year of this reign. Of course, it started in 2014, so, really big year for them. Hopefully they can achieve what they wish to achieve, and they're well on their way tonight as they get a big victory over a fantastically decorated tag team in Rich and Famous. As we move into our second match of the evening, so this match is a little bit different. It is very back and forth as Clark Alexander and Island Boy Apollo have a lot of quality singles competitors throughout their entire career, except for Island Boy having a short stint with Kid San Juan as the Freedom Caribbean Wrestling Tag Team Champions 2 times. But aside from that, they've mostly been strong singles competitors. Of course, Island Boy is the Mid-Atlantic regional champion, our main champion here in MAW, and they both have some fast-paced, hot action, some high-flying you'd expect from both these guys. Max Mayhem acting kind of as the base in this match, and then towards the end of it, quite a short match, a lot of good stuff packed into it, though. Clark Alexander looks to... the ref is kind of not looking, and Clark is about to low blow Max Mayhem, and Island Boy just looks at Clark in the eyes and says, "Don't you do it! Don't you do it!" And Clark just sighs and looks at Island Boy like, "Come on, dude, let's win this match." And that distraction is enough for Ace Youngblood to roll Clark up with a flying tomahawk chop and pick up the victory. So, the standings at the end of this first round of matches look something like this. The Aces of Mayhem and the Dynamite Express, the MAW local tag teams, picking up the victories as we start things off. It's a big victories for those two tag teams as we get into this Sam Keith Classic 7. A lot can still happen. Nothing is determined. Let's move on to a short segment to take a break. So backstage, or maybe coming out to the ring since their match is next, Rich and Famous cut a promo. They say, we may have lost the opening match, but that's not going to stop us. That's not going to hold us back. You see, we are the five-time Coastal Zone Tag Team Champions, the most decorated regional champions in this country. We are the current Grim SoCal Tag Team Champions. We are the current Coastal Zone Tag Team Champions. And we want to add to these illustrious belts on our waist. You see, we are the number one contenders for the World Tag Team Championships. We're going to have 6 belts on our waist by year's end because we are the greatest, the hottest tag team in the world. You see our diamond watches, you see these fancy suits. We can afford this because we are high rollers. We've earned everything we've gotten because, quite frankly, we demand a high price. We are a hot tag team that brings people into the building. We've earned championships all around the world, and if you know tag team wrestling, you know Rich and Famous. And tonight, we're going to add one more accolade to our illustrious collection, and it will be the Sam Keith Classic. Can they back their words up as they take on Clark Alexander and Island Boy Apollo? Yes, they can. Another kind of match. This is very even shorter. Good, fast-paced action from both of these teams as they work a standard tag team contest where once again Island Boy Apollo and Clark Alexander get into a dispute about the cheating ways of Clark Alexander as he attempts to do a sneaky tag or maybe rip one of Rich and Famous off from the apron, something like that. And Island Boy Apollo and Clark Alexander get into some sort of argument over Clark's attempts at cheating, and that's enough to distract Island Boy, and he gets defeated by Jake Idol. Points on the board for Rich and Famous. As we move into the Maw versus Maw match, it is, of course, the Aces Mayhem versus the Dynamite Express. And the Aces of Mayhem pin the tag team champs. Ace Youngblood defeats Cameron Jones by pinfall with a roll-up. Pretty standard stuff. Probably Max Mayhem getting heel worked over in the corner. Some traditional stuff as maybe the Dynamite Express cheat a little. Sid, he's always scheming something. Cheat a little behind the ref's back. Get a few extra hits in, a few nasty cheap shots. Working Max down until finally Max manages to break free. Big little, maybe a kick of some sort that stumbles Sid into his corner. Jump across the ring. Ace Youngblood comes in. Big clear house, throws Sid over the top rope, big boot to Cameron. Cameron goes for a big clothesline and Ace ducks behind, rolls him up, 1, 2, 3, and the Aces of Mayhem are top of the table going into the final round. As you see, they have 4 points on the board. Dynamite Express and Rich and Famous both have 2. Dynamite Express obviously beat Rich and Famous in the first round, which is why they're ahead of them. And the final matchups are the Dynamite Express taking on Clark and Apollo, and Rich and Famous taking on the Aces of Mayhem. If Rich and Famous beat the Aces of Mayhem and the Dynamite Express do not win their match, then Rich and Famous win the Sam Keith Classic 7. If the Aces of Mayhem win against Rich and Famous or even draw, they have won. There is nothing anybody else can do. If the Aces of Mayhem draw or win the final match, they have won. If the Dynamite Express beat Clark and Apollo, I don't think they can win at all because they lost to the Aces of Mayhem. So I think even in some convoluted, all 3 teams end up on 4 point situation, I think the Dynamite Express are out right now. But there might be some way of them winning. We'll find out. Let's see how the final round goes. Let's head back into the game, shall we? As we move on to the final break segment of the show, backstage, or probably away from the arena, probably away from the show, we see Roddy Remus, who is, kind of sullen. He has not had a good couple of years here in MAW, and it very much shows. And the interviewer walks up to him and they ask, how's he doing? What's his plans? And he looks fired up and he says, I've had a bad couple of years, but something that I've always been taught is to learn from your defeats and learn from your enemies. And one thing I learned from Greg Gage, a guy who I was a rival for a very long time, and he was definitely better than me, is you gotta fight above your weight class sometimes. You gotta fight better opponents than you sometimes. And although it's hard, and although it's tough, and although you might get knocked down, you gotta get back up again. Because even when you're unsure of yourself, if you keep fighting, eventually you'll get to that light at the end of the tunnel. If you keep fighting, eventually you'll get better. And eventually you can consider yourself the best. And there's also another thing I learned from Greg Gage. It's something he used to say a lot. There's only one championship in this business that proves that you're the best. And it's something, sadly for him, you couldn't buy. It's something you had to earn. And that's the World's Heavyweight Championship. You know, Greg was going on a crusade, a campaign, really, to beat everyone above him on the wrestler rankings this summer. And he failed. But I think it was a good idea. And I want to pick that mantle up. So, I'm challenging Bulldozer Brandon Smith, Fumihiro Oda. I'm challenging Nicholas Lopez. Come to MAW. Come to my house. Come to the place where I ruled this place from 2014 to 2015. Come to my house and face me. Prove that you're the best. Come on. You think you're the best? You think you're the best on those wrestler rankings? Come and prove it. Fight Roddy Remus. Fight one of the greatest grapplers on the territories today. And if I can beat you, then I deserve a shot at that World's Heavyweight Championship. Roddy fired up. Roddy wants that gauntlet. Roddy wants that World's Heavyweight Championship shot as we move in to the final round of the Sam Keith Classic 7. And Clark Alexander and Island Boy Apollo draw with the Dynamite Express when the time limit expired. So this was an interesting one when I was thinking about it in my head. It's a pretty traditional tag team match. The Dynamite Express have control of most of it. Island Boy getting work done in the corner, the sneaky heel tactics. And eventually, Island Boy is not getting to Clark. Island Boy is Clark is very irritated. He tries to cheat. Island Boy stops him. They get into arguments. And, you know, that entire team, Island Boy and Clark, are just getting frustrated and they're falling apart. But the Dynamite Express just cannot capitalize. They work him down all match. They try pinfalls, but Island Boy just has too much heart. He's not going to get beat like this. He got beat earlier, and it pissed him off. So he's got too much heart to get beat again. So every pinfall attempt, every chop and change, every big boot, every splash off the top, every low blow that Sid manages to pull off behind the ref's back, every table of chairs that he gets put through, nothing. Island Boy will not be put down, and because he can't get a tag into Clark Alexander, Clark can't get beat either. So Island Boy just gets worked down for a full 20 minutes, never tags Clark in, does not give up, but it ends up going to the time limit. And they each get a point, which means that both of these teams are out of the tournament, and the winner of our main event will be the Sam Keith Classic champion. Will it be the Aces of Mayhem, or will it be Rich and Famous? I didn't forget that name. I totally didn't forget that name. I was just pausing for effect. And in the main event of the evening, the Aces of Mayhem defeat Rich and Famous in around 15 minutes and 32 seconds when Ace Youngblood defeated Jake Idol by pinfall with a chaos effect. Ace Youngblood and Max Mayhem return. They return to their once home, the place where they have not been. They have not been tag team champions here since 2011. 6 years between championship wins for these two, but they have done it. They return to their original home. They return and prove, perhaps once and for all, that they are the greatest tag team in MAW history. 3-time MAW Tag Team Champions, joint record, and now they add the Sam Keith Classic to their prestigious list of championship wins. Are they back a long time? Or are they just here for this tournament? We will find out. They have pinned the tag team champions. They have pinned the 5-time Coastal Zone tag team champions. They've pinned the Mid-Atlantic Regional Singles champion. It has been a fantastic tournament for them. They've won the Sam Keith Classic. They could well demand any title shot they possibly want. And, hell, they might just do that. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Check out the rest of the series. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys. And if you're feeling especially generous and particularly like the episode, please feel free to check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. If you're interested in having a creative input on this series, first place I tend to go is my Twitter. The link to that is also in the description. And aside from that, the next episode will be the Battle of the Mid-Atlantic. Lots of fallout coming off of this show, of course. The Aces of Mayhem are advertised to be there, as well as Roddy Remus has challenged Bulldozer Brandon Smith to be there next episode to face him, to fight him. Now remember that the wrestler rankings get updated in September, so Roddy only has 2 shows to really prove himself before the wrestler rankings get updated. Also, Clark Alexander and Island Boy Apollo had a terrible tournament. Let's take a look at those final rankings there. So I forgot to show you guys those. Yeah, that's not a very good tournament for Clark and Apollo. So they might well have some words for each other. Also, there have been those ominous vignettes of a cloaked figure walking around looking seemingly for Island Boy Apollo. Maybe those will get resolved in the next episode, but probably not. You know, I like myself a slow build. Also, more to come from such stars of MAW as Ash Campbell and American Elemental 2 and George Wolf. Will George Wolf finally get his match with Christopher Ball? Or the other way around, will Christopher Ball get his match with George Wolf? Christopher Ball next episode. We have an advertised match already. Christopher Ball is going to be taking on the Architect, as announced in the last episode, at the Battle of the Mid-Atlantic. So yes, thank you all for watching. I hope you guys will join me for the Battle of the Mid-Atlantic. If you do, I would be absolutely honoured to see you guys then. Peace out.